Welcome to the Gallatin County Democrats Legislative Check-in for April 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Joe Hancock, and our guest for this evening is Representative Scott Rosenzweig from House District 59, or
Seven.
57, typo,
Yeah.
57, covering a portion of eastern Bozeman and rural Park County. As a reminder, this event is being recorded and will be shared on our YouTube channel. If there are any questions, you can enter them in the chat or raise your hand using the Zoom React menu at the bottom of the screen. Representative Rosenzweig was born in Tucson, Arizona, and moved to Montana in 2005 after earning a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy from Wesleyan University and an MBA from Cornell. For over 35 years, Scott has been working as an international executive entrepreneur in satellite communications, the Internet of Things, and remote asset tracking. As a long distance runner, he was well prepared to campaign in the most competitive seat in Montana and is now serving his first term in the Montana legislature. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks, Joe and Gallatin County Democrats.
So we'll start out just by asking it, as a freshman legislator, what are your impressions on how the session has unfolded thus far?
I'll try to be 2 minutes and you tell me if you want more, but for me personally, it's been an incredibly steep learning curve. It's the most I've ever worked on any job I've ever had. It's the most exhausting experience I've had by far. I am really pleased that it's me who gets to press the red or green button at every vote. We've taken hundreds of votes. The Democratic caucus is surprisingly solid and strong, and we achieved many things with moderate and or conservative Democrats, but it's been quite the learning curve. I'm very honored to be a part of it. Every vote, even when we lose, I'm still feeling grateful for the chance to press the button instead of my opponent in the election. And yeah, it's very, very inspiring all around. And I'm sitting here in the House chamber, which is probably the coolest office I've ever had, even though I've had some really cool offices.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty glad to have you pushing buttons instead of Marty Malone.
Thanks.
All right, so I just got asked, Patty Steinmiller's popped a couple questions in the chat here. We'll start there since they kind of correlate with stuff I prepared. What's the status of the property tax bills and also income tax bills? So how are things looking on that, do you
The
think?
general property tax bill or my property tax bill?
Oh,
You
let's
mean
go
property
wide and then
tax
narrow.
wider? I would say um it's interesting because we had two that we expected were in competition. One was the Republican and one was sort of the Democrat, Mark Thane, and the other was more Lou Jones. And another one by Ed Byrne has come to take a very surprising lead role in the discussion. So I think what happens, if I'm not mistaken, is that at the end of the process, they'll all be mashed together into something, whichever ones survive, whichever committees and or amendments, and then they mash them all together at the end. But my election definitely helped weigh in um, on would helped weigh in on appropriations holding firm on the property tax bills such that the Republican proposal got improved twice and then sort of replaced with another very moderate Republican proposal. So all things good there. And what was the second topic? Income tax?
Oh, just yeah, income tax. What's going
Income
on with
tax,
you think there?
weird bills have passed by that create very large tax breaks unnecessarily, in my opinion. Um, and I imagine, I'm told that they will change significantly when they pass through the Senate. So I, I'll let you know when we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll let you know when we're done. But the sausage is being made, and because the Democrats are such a large caucus, there is more balance than there otherwise would have been on all of those efforts. So feeling good, but I think that's what happens at the very end.
Yeah, that's my impression as well. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and slide over a bit to your property tax bill, House Bill 836 for your deferral loan program. Just
Oh,
kind
thanks.
of,
Well, I'm presenting it tomorrow at 8 a.m. to the Senate Taxation Committee. It's the only bill I have that made it all the way through any process so far, so it's the furthest I've been. And I will see how it goes. It was lessened from 50 million ask to 6 million, and made another amendment. And it's a really interesting thing that nobody else has ever tried, and I figure why not give it a go? Maybe people like it. Among the options of offerings that the state could bring for property tax relief to help seniors, but generally people stay in their homes. That's kind of another good option to also building more. But yeah, that's that. And then the Ozempic bill got also further, it's called the Ozempic bill, but it was really to force the doctors to have the option to prescribe weight loss or GLP-1 drugs for people with class 3 obesity, which is 40% or more body mass, and or a women's condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it just failed by 1 or 2 votes, I think.
Mhm.
And I'll try again next session. I feel like it was an interesting. I was that's how it's because of that bill. And honestly, Republican Jane Gillette sits one seat away from me in the Appropriations Committee. And one day she asked me, she was looking at watching me type furiously on my computer in the committee, and she said, "What are you working on?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, that's interesting." And it was really all thanks to Jane Gillette, who that I figured out how to finish that bill and turn it into something that almost made it. And that I was then able to finish any bills, because after that one, I was able to create 5 more. And they were kind of cool. And now that I sort of know what I'm doing, I figure I can come back with a better bill selection option next time. So anyway, yeah.
awesome. I was wondering how you ended up co-sponsoring a bill with Jane.
No, it was an honor. She took me through she was the Bo Peep, and I was just one of her sheep following along. It was quite funny. She's quite sharp. She's really sharp, and she was really kind at mentoring me. So and has been a supporter of that bill uh the whole way. So super nice.
Well, I have to say, it's nice to hear nice things about her because she's my House District Representative.
Well,
And
here's one thing. Yeah, she definitely, I
so
mean, go ahead.
it's nice since she's a Republican, it's nice to hear some nice things about, who's representing you, and that no matter how she votes, that she does help
Oh,
Democrats. Yeah.
oh no, she's super helpful. But Jane is also, I mean, to her credit, I mean, she votes reliably one way, kind of. But to her credit, Jane is she's one of the most important people in the House for sort of honing in on getting to the bottom of what something really means and what the cost really is and what the impact will be. So she's great for both parties. Honestly, I mean,
Oh, well,
I'm
that's
sure.
really very
No, I'm sure that I
that's
should
very good to
say
hear.
vote for the Democrat. But
Yeah.
having said that, I really appreciate Jane very much. Anyway, yeah.
Well, all you really hear is and I didn't like her campaign and some things that she did in her campaign, and then what other people say and how she votes. That's all you kind of see on the surface because I don't know her personally.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
very
no.
good to hear. Thank you.
You bet. And I see there are questions popping up, but I don't know where they go. So you can ask them of me, Joe, if you want.
All right, let's start with the one from Joseph Armbrust. Senate Bill 266 about allowing triplex and fourplexes. How do you feel about that one? Or have you really had a chance to look at it?
It doesn't sound too familiar. Have we already voted on it, or is it coming up? Because generally
Mhm.
speaking, what I find is that there are a lot of very broadly, people have an idea that, hey, this would really help housing in 1 or 2 or 3 particular places. And then they say, I could imagine that the whole state needs that. Let's make a law over the whole state. And we try to keep explaining to them over and over and over that Bozeman is not quite like some industrial district in Billings that you wish would be developed more easily. So I would say generally, I'm not a fan of the state making decisions that force allowing building codes and zoning options overarching what the cities would do. So, but I'm open. I don't know which one 266 is specifically. I know that we approved tall six-story buildings. We approved six-story buildings with just really skinny staircases and no fire egress. We also approved, as long as it's a under 1,200 square foot apartment, then no parking is required. So we could have a lot of tall new apartment buildings downtown with no parking and skinny staircases only to the 6th floor. And I don't really know about the triplex duplex thing, but I'm happy to hear if you write to me, it always helps when you actually put in the subject heading, I am your constituent, and then put your actual address so that I can believe it, and then and then I read it, and then you'll make an impression on me. So please do that. Thanks.
I just looked and it went to committee and got
Oh,
voted down to committee in the House, but it did pass the Senate.
oh,
And that's why I brought it up tonight. I didn't realize it got shut down already. So
gotcha.
I guess you
Well,
won't see it.
probably not
Tabled in
no,
local government committee.
yes,
Right.
no, a lot of things are threatening, but it's like two simple chessboards with an actual king at the end who does or does not sign. You
Right.
go like committee, floor, then appropriations, and then committee, floor, and then House Finance and Claims, and then the governor. So it's quite the process to get for anything to make it through and become a law.
I was quite surprised it made it through the Senate,
So
actually.
there you go.
So you know, it's got, like you said, it's got a lot of hoops to get through.
Yep, gotcha. What's next, Joe?
Well, Amy asked, what has been the highlight of your time at the Capitol?
Oh, shoot. It's really stunning how many fascinating things I get to do. The highlight has definitely been, though, when you press the button, deals get made. And so things get traded, votes get traded for sure. But when you vote on judiciary bills, and or you vote against weird separatist, I would call them divisive bills, trans bills, sex definition bills, and you really wish you were doing something better, but you really also want them to die. And so it's really nice when you get to press the right button, and with a whole bunch of moderate Republicans usually kill something that you just feel is bad, and at least you forestalled it for one term, even though you can imagine that the same things come up over and over and over. But 42 Democrats is really we're the strongest caucus, and and Republicans. I mean, I don't think we do groupthink, because we all think very similarly about the most basic issues, and we really are well managed internally. And Republicans are allowed to think much more freely, and they don't make group decisions, and they don't coordinate. So they are comfortable when they actually band with us and they're comfortable when they don't. So it's kind of I sit right next to me on this side is a woman named Kathy Love, who reliably votes against everything that involves spending. And she is the best seatmate. It is stunning how enjoyable she is to hang out with, because, she doesn't judge me for any of my Democrat or non-Democrat ways, and I don't judge her. It's only a surprise when we vote the same way, and we're like, oh, look, that's fun. So, and I hang out with right of the other side of me. Everybody up here is a Democrat, but everybody on this side, they're about, I don't know, 6 or 7 Republicans, and I live in the corner, and it's all fascinating. So sometimes I just turn around and I'm like, what are you guys how are you guys gonna vote? And they fill me in on what inspires them. Um, so even though I'm very reliably a Democrat, I get to have a lot of fun talking to a lot of really interesting people that vote completely differently than I do. And also respect
That's good.
what I yeah,
That's
and also
good.
respect what I offer.
Right.
There's real dialogue here in the corner. It's and there's
That's
it
so
and
much.
yeah, and I'm
Go
a
ahead.
fidgety guy, so I get to talk a lot, and they appreciate the humor. And also because I'm fiscally responsible, even though I always vote, not always, but I vote a lot very Democrat-y. So anyway, yeah, what
Well,
else?
that's far better than not speaking to the people you sit next to, like it
Oh,
might have been
absolutely.
in other sessions. Yeah. Yeah,
No,
that's
no,
very good.
no, I think that, well, I was told, I don't know if it's true or a lie, but I was told that's why they put me at the last seat. I think it was just because they didn't really know if they had to give the seat back at the end of the day. But no, I really appreciate being here. Um, I do. It's become a lot more enjoyable than I would ever have expected. A lot more, a lot funnier than I ever would have thought. So,
Yeah, I've seen a
what
lot
else,
of
Joe?
shenanigans on that floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me when Zach Brown was running for re-election for the House in 2018, he talked about how during his first term he intentionally sat next to the Republicans so that he could have that kind of engagement instead of just sitting in with the like-minded people and not actually
Oh yeah,
learning anything about
absolutely.
the different viewpoints.
No, but my district is 50 is very 50-50, and I bought the
Mhm.
clothes so I could fit in again. I used to wear very fancy suits and stuff, and I bought in so that I could fit in with the Republican finance meetings, and so far they let me in, so it's working.
Camouflage.
Totally. No, but it's also fun to dress up as long as we have to wear a coat and tie, I might as well.
Yeah, just
Why
go
not?
play, go all in.
Yeah.
Well, Patty asked here, have the conference committee started yet, and how will they work if so?
Conference committees have worked, have started, and um, generally what a conference committee means that you can go in and discuss. It's a lopsided committee of I think 6 people, usually, or one Democrat, 2 Republicans from the House and Senate, and they debate how bills that were amended during the process, and then unconcurred with amendments not concurred, how they should be merged from a negotiated position. And conference committees for people, they're lopsided, but at least they are limited to the topic that's currently in the bill title. So whatever's in the bill title could be amended in the bill. So there is some risk of movement, and I can explain one risk that I learned about. But then you can also go to free conference committee where all the sideboards are off and anything under the sun related to that general topic might be amended into the topic of the bill. And they are chosen conference or free conference at the discretion of the speaker. So they're an extraordinarily annoying thing for Democrats. And I actually learned very quickly how dangerous they were because they introduced an amendment to a wolf bill. That was really cool amendment, but then when it got unamended and removed in the Senate, it was then returned to us, and we had to make sure, this was just Friday, we had to make sure that we concurred on second reading so that we didn't send it to a conference committee. And then it was one of the only, I think, 2 or 3 bills that was killed on Friday at third reading was House Bill 258. So really good thing. Anyway, learned my lesson. I see some other questions popping up.
All right, so Patty has another one here about House Bill 2. Do you think it'll pass this week? And do you think the session will end soon after that?
I have not seen what's going on in the Senate. I have this, like I said, this is the busiest job I've ever had in my life, and I finally got the Capitol crud a little bit because not this past, but the week prior was the busiest week I've ever had in my whole work life, and I don't pay attention. I just do the best I can at every moment, and then try to go running and eat food, usually spinach, followed by some type of pasta and chicken is where I'm at. Just trying to stay healthy enough. So I heard that it was an odd hearing in the Senate, but that it passed through and looks like it's going to be going forward. So I was told that we could be done around the 85th or 87th day, something like that, which is somewhere around right around the turn of the month. Anyway, but I don't really pay attention. I just show up every day and try to get to the end and not make any mistakes anymore. What else?
Well, you're
Yeah,
learning faster with your mistakes, though.
yeah.
You're just learning more publicly.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Which someone did ask if the last day of the session was May 5th, but I think you answered that in your own way with you don't know.
No.
But
I have a question. Well, I didn't type it in the chat, but just generally, how do you think some of these judiciary bills are going to come out?
Well, I feel like we've killed almost all of them successfully. Is of the latest. So we've done a really good job of working. That's been something that I'm sure has been coordinated between parties, because it is important both. So it's so far, as far as I can tell, it's all worked out as Democrats have hoped along the way. And except for a couple bills, I think slipped through, but I'm not the best at keeping track.
Yeah,
I think
that's okay.
we voted on something like 800 or 900 bills, uh, something like that. I just really like, it's so hard to even, there's so much reading and absorbing, and they all start to look the same. And then people go, wait, didn't we see this one already? And kind of, yeah. But House Bill 2 was quite a bit of work. I sit on the strangest of the appropriations subcommittees, section F. So I just sort of was learning about the whole process as it flew by all of us, and I would expect it to be passed because all the big things, the property tax bills and the housing funding bills are getting mushed into a big giant trust fund for all these kind of things, like an $800 million fund. So, excuse me, along with that, I think House Bill 2 will put us pretty close to the end of the session. So, yep.
yeah, I know that the judicial stuff has been working out well enough that a rally to defend the judiciary was canceled because they didn't feel like they had anything to rally against
No, how about
for the
that? See,
rest of the year.
look at us go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're
No,
killing our enthusiasm for rallies by being successful, Scott.
no,
How
I
dare you?
trust Amy. What does Amy say to the meeting group chat? I saw that.
Oh, no. Okay, I'll go and I'll just read the whole thing straight through and say thank you, Amy, for your comment. And it just says, I just want to say, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of your fans and constituents, how much I appreciate
Oh,
the heart and
oh,
balance you brought to this session. It's been refreshing for a first term, the way you've
alrighty.
listened,
You can
shown up.
stop. That's really nice. Thank you.
Oh,
You're
it's
welcome.
going on the video, Scott. You're interrupting
Oh,
it. It's going to
sorry.
be in the
Okay. All right.
recording.
Sorry.
For a first term, the way you've listened, shown up, and been a real voice for the people, it's incredibly impressive. It's not easy work, but you've made it feel authentic and impactful. Thank you. And I think everyone on this meeting, this Zoom, can feel similar or
Well,
the same way.
you can also feel differently, but thanks.
Okay. Well, I think you're odd, but all that still applies. All right. So Jackie Gilmore did ask us, what bills will you be focusing on for the remaining weeks? Do you really have a lot of space to think beyond just what's flying at you at this point?
No, I don't really have. For me, it's um, all the bills that I was focused on fighting, or I mean, I have one more bill that's still alive. It's a property tax increase deferral loan program for seniors, and I'm presenting it tomorrow morning in the Senate Taxation Committee. So uh, that's important to me. All the other bills that I was working to oppose or defend that were important to me or my constituents that I'm aware of were taken care of through the end of last week. So now it's learning, I think, while I sit in appropriations. And appropriations is a unique committee for managing all the money, and I would like to be more facile at understanding and working with the budget now that all of my bills got killed so far. And I have less to do after presenting tomorrow morning. So learning more about the budget and working with Luke Muskevich particularly on that, and learning as much as I can from Mary Cafaro, who's on her last, at least current term in the House, but is the vice chair of appropriations from us. Yeah, there's not a lot that I can think of that I need to work on, except to now get ready for working on in the interim and improving on the bills that I made that I was hoping would help Clark County and or Gallatin a good bit more than they have relative to the accommodations tax, and then working again on a really cool version of the capital gains tax alteration that I thought was really fun, but got rejected because the 1/100th% of the population has a very strong lobby. But I'm going to work on that. So yeah.
All right. Well, which I do actually have here. So what kind of priorities do you have coming up for 2027, assuming you're reelected?
Assuming I want to run first, because I don't have to decide that. This has been a very exhausting job. I assume I'll want to run. It's been very,
Oh.
very rewarding. My priorities would be to find some way to help use the accommodations tax and or some part of revenue from tax generated by Taurus, which is currently just that, and which Park and Gallatin together generate 40% of. I want to bring some of that money back to those communities to use as a match for bridge funding and or road funding, which you can use as a match and or rescue services, particularly useful to Park County. I do want to work. My interim committee, somebody just asked, I think I'm going to be on appropriations continuing in subsection F, unless I decide to move to policy committees, because I'm really enjoying the taxation stuff. And I think I would like business and labor, or maybe local government, but I don't know. Appropriations is so powerful. And on behalf of my communities, I sit on the I sit on the weird subsection F where money is dished out, which has been useful to my communities in a quiet way, very quiet way, but a very useful way, because I see we give away $1.5 billion and it's accrued well to the University in Bozeman and the communities of Livingston and Park County generally. So, and it's a really good group of people that I enjoy actually as my day job, since I sit with them 45 days for 4 hours a day. But my policy, I think I'd like to, I really enjoyed using the staff here. It's an amazing staff that serves us all in the building. And I've uncovered a lot of interesting data relative to capital gains taxes reported by the population and the distribution and the growth of the accommodations tax collections across the state, and also how one of the departments in the building, let's say, really opposed and worked hard against my Ozempic bill in a way that I thought was unfair through what my colleague from Three Forks would call the weaponization of the fiscal note. So there's a lot to be learned. And also, I mean, to be honest and true, I've also been involved in the cannabis, in helping balance between, I think, people who hate cannabis and the cannabis industry itself, which almost hit a really sticky patch in appropriations that I helped get through in a way that to limit the growth of the dispensaries and not create future liquor license type appropriations of space and stuff. So, and then I've been able to speak up recently on behalf of the Bridger on zoning and in the Bridger Bowl and Bridger Canyon area, and just I feel like I'm able to speak on the House floor and learning my way and getting respect on behalf of the community that I represent, and I'm really honored to be here. So,
We're all
what
very
else?
glad to have you there. And Fred, I just toss out there, what's it like working with such a large delegation that's just from Gallatin County that seemed to, at least on the floor, kind of integrate efforts on some level?
I think we're all very tolerant of everybody is idiosyncrasies is what I'd say. So it's really it's one of those like you can't really choose your family, but you kind of like them too. So even even the things that annoy you come with the things that you really love about them. So I feel really grateful to have met up with them and be a part of them. Um, and it's, for the people that come from places where they don't have any other Democrats with whom to bond along the way, you feel very fortunate to have 13, buddies already that kind of really well, including, their idiosyncrasies and I have a whole bunch of mine, so they know me now. So it's really fun. And it is a really use. I mean, oddly, we do not we also do disagree on the House floor as a caucus. If anybody's going to split up, there's a good chance that we could split because there's so many of us, and some of us have more guaranteed winning districts, and others have less guaranteed winning districts. And some people think more lefty all the time, and other people think just that way some of the time. So it's all very good.
That's very interesting. You kind of have to vote according to your margin and your space, because if you voted the way Becky can afford to, you'd be out by 10 points next cycle.
Well, I don't know what it's like to be Becky or Mary Cafaro or Kelly Cordham.
Mhm.
But I look at it very much as I don't have any disposable votes, and there's a
Mm.
chance that I might be asked to explain any vote that I take. So I try to take votes in a meaningful way, and I usually know there's a reason for the thing that I'm doing. But like I said, there's so much work to be done, and that it's sometimes things slip through and you do regret, like, oh shoot, afterwards somebody said, why'd you do that? And you're like, that makes sense what you say now that you say that it that way. There's a lot of stuff that passes by so quickly you wish it wouldn't, but it does. That's not me, that's my camera doing that automatically for some
Yeah,
reason, but anyway.
yeah. I don't know if it's tracking some movement that's off to
Yeah,
behind you on your
anyway.
left or what's going on.
Mm,
But it makes for an entertaining show.
mm.
But you could always say when you vote one way and be like, oh, sorry, I slipped when I went for the button and
Well,
I
I have
accidentally hit the green one.
at least once. I can't remember if it's twice. Like I said, it's all just a blur. But I have Friday, I did ask to have one of my votes reversed because I didn't intend to vote for whatever it was, 6-foot staircases or something.
Oh, your narrow staircases on the 6-story buildings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like it's no, it was like, yeah, somebody went to Amsterdam and thought, that's cool. Why don't we force that option so we can allow more housing? And you're like, no. Whatever. You do your best, and then you win or lose, and it's you just keep pressing the button, and then you wonder, oh, did we win or lose that? I just did
Yeah,
the
you're
best I
just
could in the moment.
sitting there waiting for the top numbers to roll up
No,
like you're.
sometimes you just don't. It's a blur. You're just like trying to make sure that you don't, screw up and vote wrong, because it's just like boom, 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 boom.
Especially
Uh,
those third readings. That goes so fast. It's
yes,
almost
it
horrifying.
does. Right. I think we had about 80 bills in or 90 bills in the last hour, or last, I don't know what it was, hour, half an hour. It's just a blur. Friday. Anything else? Anybody have any questions? Happy to answer anything. Otherwise, thanks for listening and
Well, I was gonna note, since people are still being quiet here, trying to peer pressure them into participating more. But I was gonna mention that, like, even with like your situation where it's so close and you're in a much more moderate district, that still gives you a lot of room with the rural population that's predominantly like lower income to implement a lot of progressive policies that are just more geared toward those people that will still accept them as policies, even though they're spending money. And I think that's an interesting kind of liminal space that you're in there, if you can
maybe.
if you can frame it.
I really am at a loss for what is best. I keep thinking that the Farm Bureau should support me, but then they surprise me and do things that I wouldn't do. And it's also challenging because people often write to me, not the most, but many people write to me saying, well, now that you're here and you're my representative and you represent both parties, I want you to vote X on Y. And you're like, well, I do want to represent everybody, but I can only press the red or the green button. And in this one, I feel the opposite of you. So I don't mean to not represent you well, but on this one particular thing that you seem the most to care about, I am kind of at a loss. So I don't know how it's going to work out next time. Hopefully, I'll figure out how to post better all the videos of the bills that I presented and the things that I've said on the floor and trying to represent my constituents, and my voting record will speak well for what I've attempted to do. And or maybe somebody better than me will come and relieve me of this obligation to do it again.
Well,
That would be okay too.
but Scott, you have the incumbency advantage, and we have all those clips we can use of you saying things on the floor that are smart.
I don't know that they're all smart. I say a lot of
Well,
things and then, yeah.
they don't all need to be smart, Scott. We
Mm,
can not use the ones that weren't. We can selectively edit your time on the floor to be just the
thank you.
smart
Oh,
stuff
that's funny. I appreciate
and the
that.
funny stuff.
Thanks. That's funny. Somebody asked about the dignity in dying bill. I believe we passed it and I voted for it. Um, and I got some letters of thanks. A couple people opposed it that wrote to me. I don't remember which bill it was, but I know the Democrat caucus voted, if not fully, certainly mostly in favor. Um, and the Republicans were split, I believe. So that usually means that it passes because they're split usually in half. But sometimes they also do just 7 to 9 of them, and 8 or 9 is a lot more than 7. So, yeah. Any
Like
other
like
questions?
back to your Ozempic bill, how it you fell just like one short of the Republicans that needed to flip to get your bill through.
Yeah,
But
that came back with a weird fiscal note, and it's been the same idea. It's been implemented in Wyoming and Idaho now, and so we'll all know much more 2 years from now. But it was once I learned, yeah, once you learn what a magical drug class they are for people that are suffering from some physical ailment that causes obesity, it's hard, and or just generally polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a feminine thing that obviously I would not have worried about. You feel bad about the people who just don't get the thing that you kind of feel that they deserve,
Mhm.
but very
and
close.
and just the idea that actually taking care of people before they get overly sick by
Well, yeah, the idea that
preventing heart
because
disease and diabetes.
right, if once you get diabetes, you do get the drug for free. So the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
idea of the idea was to create a bill that allowed somebody to get GLP-1s prior to getting diabetes when they were obviously on the pathway to diabetes. So next time.
Yes, yes, we'll bring it back in 2 years and get it pushed through.
Yep.
Uh,
Yes, that's the idea. I certainly will know better what I'm doing next time. And anybody who intends to return to office has an advantage over everyone who's a freshman in terms of knowing how to get a bill ready. I only figured it out late in the term, and so everything got squished in with all the other requests. And so I was lucky to make it as far as I did with the Ozempic bill, and lucky to have made it as far as I am with the property tax credit deferral program. So
Absolutely. And
yep, and I
the
did
fa-
reintroduce the accommodations tax concept twice because it was a bad idea with using the gas tax, but a good
Mhm.
idea using the accommodations tax, even though I was totally beaten by many agencies and tourist groups. I will persevere on behalf of the counties
Yeah,
that I represent and
good,
cities.
good.
Yep.
Well, we'll be there with you to push back on those special interest groups that are getting in the way of things.
Well, they're not so special. They're just agencies that defending their budgets
It's,
because that's
it's
everybody's natural tendency.
the interests are special, the groups are not.
Well, I don't know. I appreciate everybody's intentional. It's just that there's really no place in the government, maybe in the interim, that I haven't found yet where you come in and you go, that looks a little weird. That's too much money. You shouldn't be spending that over there. And then you go ask them and you say, hey, because it's not like, a board of directors overseeing an executive inside a company where they can decide what to do with the profits and or the budgets or the divisions that don't seem to be paying off or things that are, whatever. So here it's just you have to actually introduce a bill to take somebody's budget and their job is to sort of fight you. Even though you wish they wouldn't because you think what you're proposing is reasonable. It's just they're like, hey, but that's my budget. And you're like, I get it, but I think we should get some. Whatever. It's very, very interesting, very entertaining.
Yeah, I believe it. And
Hmm.
I was just thinking about the fact that, like, even with everything you got done, considering you not only are a freshman, but with your recount, how everything for you kind of got started later while you waited to find out if you were actually going to get to work there.
Yes, yes, I missed a lot of the early invitations to the dinners and the lunches because they didn't have my email address and my name was misspelled incorrectly twice as they set up my legislative email address. Um, so yeah, whatever. Next time it'll be better. I hope, I'm sure, maybe.
Well, I hope so. I feel like at this
Thanks.
point that'd be on you if it's not, because you had this whole time to you had this whole time to
You
learn.
know, it's like I wish I had a staff. I do not, just so you know.
Well, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I am
There
not
are
the
times
best
I think
admin.
about that too. I wish I had
Yep.
a staff, but
Exactly. How do I feel about the governor's slush fund? Yep, good question. What talk do you hear? I hear um there's a lot of people looking at it, and I don't, it's not a fight I'm in the middle of. I just get to, that's something that is being played out between Democrats and the fiscally more conservative Republicans, and I just get to watch and giggle. It's kind of entertaining. It comes up. It also is playing into the giant trust funds that are being created. So it's one of those like, yes, there's a slush fund and there's a whole bunch of people trying to rope it in to various different funds of different kinds and or into this big new I forget what it's called, 704, 804, the big collective fund that's being assembled with all the housing trusts and water funds and resiliency funds. Um, and some capital development funds. So yeah, no, I mean, luckily there's other people watching that and I don't have to, I'm not an expert in the slush fund. I'm just sitting in a place where I get to have influence on how the votes get made in the appropriations committee about the use of the slush funds. And so at least I have some positive influence on the direction on behalf of the better side of things, I would say. So yeah.
yeah,
Anything
yeah.
else?
When I first read about that, I was just
Mm.
I wasn't surprised. I was just sad.
Mm. You bet. Well, it's like I've been in so many countries. It's I it's kind of entertaining for me. It's more like what level of problem or graft or greed or slush are we talking? And in this case, luckily it wasn't anything where the government went lacking because I don't want to say
Mm.
because we're awash with the ARPA and all that money, but we're actually a really well managed government. I think.
Mhm.
And we do better. We have more than we anticipate usually. And so at least the slush fund doesn't hurt anything. It just might be better used for other things if you considered it to be part of the general fund and or general profits, all that stuff. So I totally agree with taking a look at it and making sure that it doesn't get forgotten about. And there are bigger forces that I try to towards the end, I'm trying to serve as a resource to the Democratic side of the of life, to make sure that somebody has some expertise or knowledge about the housing programs that are being proposed. And we haven't really used that for leverage much because we've been concerned more about, I think, bigger other things, not that because housing I consider to be critical to sort of stability of life and community. But a lot of things are being thrown into the mix of what's being discussed now at the end, and the slush fund and or the excess funds and or the interest, whatever it's called, wherever it happens to be sitting, is all part of is all part of the the mix of materials that's going into the sausage making that's going to make big sausages at the end, I guess. I don't really know. I'm new to this, so yeah.
Yes. It is weird that we have this weird little quasi endowment that Gianforte has discretion over, but it's
There's
some,
a lot of things that are weird. At least it doesn't take away, like we've been able to vote for a lot of education and health, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that gets a stick in our budget along the way.
yeah. Hopefully it gets used well at some point.
Yep.
And this is a question that was from a while ago. Elizabeth did ask when we were talking about wolf bills, she mentioned one that's up for a second reading tomorrow and asked if
Oh.
you think that anti-wolf bills will be a feature every session.
Yes, I think so. And I think until fish wild, I'm new to the wolf bill stuff, but until Fish, Wildlife and Parks takes over control of the process and manages it to somebody's satisfaction, I think I get the impression that there's always going to be this debate or this sort of back and forth. I know there's a lot of people that want to kill wolves and a lot of people that want Fish, Wildlife and Parks to manage the wolves and the culling or whatever it's called when you do that. Sorry, I can't turn the lights on above me. It's all the chamber and the sun is going down. So I expect that wolves will continue to be an issue, but truthfully, I'm not saying if I'm a fan of killing wolves, but I have learned again, sometimes there's truth in the middle, and wolves are spreading so far around Montana that they are having an impact in other places, and they are growing in numbers in those other places. So I care mostly about Park and Gallatin counties, and I'm not an expert in wolves statewide, but it seems like wolves can be a very localized issue that demands more local attention than statewide uh, than a statewide laws. So I expect until they manage them, until there's what's really missing and what's really annoying about government is that we spend a good amount of time on the Democratic caucus, and we achieve, like, basically our job is to inform each of the caucus members about why bills are contentious and or if it's not obvious why you would vote yes or no, why you would maybe vote one way or the other. And I'm accustomed to business, so I'm trying to have more dialogue with more people more frequently, in that you're looking for a win-win solution, and rarely there doesn't seem to be a lot of win-win sitting down together to talk. Even though there are interim committees, they're usually intentionally unbalanced. Or we know that we know which committees are balanced and which ones are unbalanced. And there's a lot more interest in dialogue than they're spending time on. So I'm an optimist, I guess. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have run for office. And I would really encourage, and I do encourage all the time. I encourage dialogue and open communication because there's no harm, no foul. Republicans could win everything if they wanted, and why wouldn't we help them make their intentions better along the way? So I will see how that goes and works out going forward. Didn't work out for me with my Wolf Amendment, but I think that was an exception. I think actually I'll bring that Wolf Amendment back as a standalone Wolf bill next session, and maybe it has a chance of passing. But anyway, yeah,
Well, yeah, fingers crossed.
fingers crossed.
The wolf bills feels like that's just gonna be a perpetual thing just because one side, if it goes too far one way, we'll see a bunch of bills just perpetually pulling it the other way again. But
Yeah, I think
that's
there's some
conservation
sense
in
of
a
balance,
nutshell.
and I think there's some sense of balance, that balance is different in different areas. And I think the dialogue is happening at least. So anyway,
Well,
that's all I got.
anyone, th- anyone, uh, anyone on the chat here have any other questions for Scott before we sign off here?
All right. Well, thank you.
Well, and before I cut things off here, I just want to remind everyone that because next Sunday is Easter, we will not be having a legislative check-in, but the following Sunday we will be welcoming Brian Close from District 65 to share his thoughts on things. And
And Brian's done a great job this session.
oh yeah, I really appreciated the two of you having the interaction on your was that the property tax loan bill that he was
Yes.
asking questions about?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a great interaction.
No, Brian has
Well,
actually turned into a great legislator, I think.
yeah,
Very
he's a
contributes a
grinder.
lot. Yep, he contributes a lot.
All right. Well, and all that being said, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Scott, for giving us nearly an hour of your time.
You
And
bet.
I hope you're able to find you some a snack or something to replenish your electrolytes.
Oh, spinach salad is on in my forecast. Spinach, pasta, chicken. I'm ready.
All right. Well, you go ahead and
Thanks.
go do that, and
I will.
I'll go ahead and well, the rest of us will go do our thing as well. And everybody have a good evening, a great week, and a
All right.
happy Easter.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Joe.
Mhm.
Thank you
Cheers.
very much.
You bet. Cheers, everyone. Bye.